Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Let's talk about one of the most profound events in Islamic history, the Prophet Muhammad's night journey. I mean, just think about it for a second. A journey that went from Mecca to Jerusalem and then ascended all the way through the heavens, all in a single night. It's an event that's really defined by faith and miracle. But what happens when we look at this 1,400-year-old account through the lens of 21st century science? Well, let's dive in and see.
So the foundation for this whole event is right here, in the Quran. This single verse describes what's known as the Isra and Mi'raj, a divine act that just completely challenges our everyday understanding of reality. It really sets the stage for a journey that goes way beyond the known world.
And the scale of this journey, it's just staggering. This wasn't just a horizontal trip across, 1,500 kilometers of desert. No, it was also a vertical, cosmic ascent up through the seven heavens, all the way to a boundary where creation itself is said to end. And all of this happened between dusk and dawn. Which, of course, brings us to our big question. Can modern physics, the science of space, time, and matter, give us a new language to even think about this event? Now, to be clear, this isn't about trying to prove a miracle. It's more of an exploration, looking at conceptual models that might just help us appreciate its sheer, incredible magnitude.
Okay, so the first and most obvious hurdle is the whole relationship between distance and time. How can such a massive journey happen so fast? This takes us into a realm that, well, seems to operate outside the normal laws of physics as we know them.
Let's just quickly walk through the timeline, right? The journey kicks off with a spiritual preparation, a heart cleansing. Then comes the superluminal, we're talking faster than light, ride on a celestial creature called the Buraq. After that, an ascension through multiple cosmic layers, meeting different prophets along the way, until he reaches this final ultimate boundary. And then he returns to Mecca, all before the sun came up. The physics of our world just doesn't compute that. But what if the rules of our everyday world aren't the only rules there are? And this is where our first scientific lens comes into play. Albert Einstein's totally revolutionary theory of relativity. So here's the core idea of relativity, and it's a big one. Space and time, they're not separate things. They're not rigid. They're actually fused together into a single fabric, space-time. And here's the kicker. This fabric is flexible. Massive objects or incredible speeds can literally warp it, changing the flow of time and the perception of distance.
This leads to a wild concept called time dilation. For you and me, here on Earth, time just ticks by at a familiar pace. But for someone traveling close to the speed of light, time itself would slow down to a crawl. A journey that might take thousands of years for us back home could be experienced as just a few moments by the traveler. Suddenly, a cosmic trip in a single night doesn't seem so impossible, at least conceptually.
So the journey didn't just bend time. It also involved crossing these cosmic boundaries and reaching an ultimate limit. And you know what's interesting? This idea shows up in both spiritual traditions and modern cosmology. There's this incredibly powerful hadith, a narration from the Prophet, that describes the structure of the heavens with this just stunning analogy. Each heaven is unimaginably vast, yet when you compare it to the next one up, it's like a tiny ring just lost in an endless desert. It gives you this image of a nested, layered cosmos. And get this, that 1,400-year-old description of a ring in a desert, it bears a fascinating resemblance to the first ever actual image of a black hole, which we only captured in 2019. From our vantage point, a black hole looks like a glowing ring of light surrounding a central darkness, a literal point of no return. The visual parallel is pretty striking.
Let's break this comparison down a little more. Sidratul Muntaha is described as the ultimate boundary of all creation, the absolute limit where the knowledge of any created being just stops. Now, look at a black hole's event horizon. It's a physical boundary, a point of no return where information can't escape, and our known laws of physics completely break down. Both, in their own way, represent a fundamental limit to our reality.
So we have a way to think about the time and a way to think about the destination. But there's another major question. What about the traveler himself? How could a physical, human body possibly survive a journey like this? According to special relativity, as any object with mass gets closer to the speed of light, its own mass increases towards infinity. You'd need infinite energy to keep it going. Essentially, a physical body would be completely annihilated. So, how do we wrap our heads around this part of the journey?
Well, believe it or not, academic papers have actually explored this exact question. Some have proposed what they call a reconstruction scenario that uses a concept from particle physics called Annihilation Theory. Now, it might sound like something out of sci-fi, but it's based on the very real principle of converting matter into pure energy, like what happens when a particle meets its antiparticle. Okay, so here's how this conceptual scenario works. Step 1, you start with the material body. Step 2, the body is converted into pure energy, a process called energization. Step 3, this energy form, which is no longer limited by mass, can now travel at superluminal speeds. And finally, step 4, upon reaching the destination, the process is reversed in what's called materialization. The energy is converted back into the original matter. It's a fascinating framework that connects a physical challenge with that spiritual heart cleansing that started the whole journey. All right, so we've looked at 3 different scientific models. Each one gives us a unique language to think about a different piece of this miraculous event. Let's try to bring it all together. So, to recap, relativity gives us a way to understand how such a ridiculously long journey could fit into a single night. Black hole cosmology gives us a modern picture that echoes an ancient description of a cosmic limit. And annihilation theory gives us a conceptual model for how a physical person could travel across these cosmic scales.
This quote right here really gets to the heart of it all. Science points to an event horizon and says, we don't know what's beyond this point. Spirituality points to Sidratul Muntaha and says, this is the limit of all created knowledge. In their own unique ways, both science and faith teach us a lesson in humility. They both acknowledge that there are boundaries to what we can truly understand. And this is the final thought I really want to leave you with. Are these scientific theories an attempt to explain away a miracle, to sort of shrink it down to a set of equations? Or are they simply providing us with a new, more profound language to appreciate the sheer, mind-bending scale of its mystery? It really suggests that maybe the goal isn't to solve the puzzle, but simply to stand in greater awe of it.